Hi, everybody. I'm Powell Slaughter with Furniture Today, and welcome to PBM News Desk, Las Vegas Market Edition. With me today is Steve Lush, president of Kuka Home North America. And Steve is going to actually be out there with Kuka in person. We've had a few people tell us they aren't coming. But Steve, this is going to be kind of a different market. It's the first real physical furniture show we've had since January in Vegas. How is that how do you think that's going to play out? Has it changed your expectations, business objectives, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it certainly has, Paul. And it is the first real market we've had since all this hit. Honestly, we don't know quite what to expect. It certainly won't be as busy as a normal market. We know that. And July is always, lightly attended anyway. But our entire feeling has been if we have one customer that's coming, we're going to be ready for them and we'll be open. At this point, we've got 12 confirmed appointments. We have a lot of customers that are waiting to the last minute, just depending on the situation with the pandemic. And we could see significantly more than that, or we could end up just with the 12 or 15 accounts that we have. But normally we would bring out for Vegas about 40 new models, new introductions. And that'd be across all different product categories, of course. So stationary, motion, dining, accent chairs, beds, etc. This time we've got about 12. So nowhere near the number that we normally do. We have several brand new motion groups we're bringing out, quite a few new dining chairs. And then we're also showing quite a bit of product that was at the spring High Point market that maybe a lot of people hadn't seen yet. So those will be shown in different covers in Vegas as well. So it's about a quarter of the normal new introductions that we would have. And our feeling was we want to have something there, certainly that's meaningful for any customers that do come. On the other side, we don't want to spend money unnecessarily. So we're saving as much cost as we can as well.
Let me ask you something. We've had a number of pretty significant exhibitors decide they're going to take a pass on actually showing up for Las Vegas market. Do you anticipate any, possible, maybe you'll get some more time with the people who are there? Is there kind of an upside to that, do you think?
Yeah, for sure. And again, we are requiring appointments in advance and one customer per time in the showroom, but we are allotting a lot of time for those dealers, like far more than normal. So yeah, I would imagine this would be a great opportunity to spend some real meaningful time with our customers and, much longer than we normally would have time for.
What other things are you going to be talking with your customers about? First of all, what do you hear them want to talk about beyond product? You do have some new product, but what's going to be on their minds this time around?
Well, just the future of markets. That's something we talk about constantly with our dealers, and we're already preparing full speed ahead for October market. But one thing you and I have talked about a little bit is the kind of a perpetual market that we have going on in High Point, which is happening right now. We were ready actually for March pre-market. And of course, that stretched into April, maybe happening, maybe not. And then we had the June mini market. And we've been loaded and ready to go the entire time. And now we've got new product coming in for October market. So it really is. We're open anytime for someone to come on an appointment-only basis, of course. And it really has been a ongoing perpetual market for us since March. So that's one thing a lot of dealers like to hear about is what are the plans in the future? Until this thing until it subsides. The other part is the digital marketing efforts. It's become so important. We shot the entire showroom in a 3D virtual tour back in April. We shot it, and that's been very successful. I don't think things like that could ever totally replace trade shows. There's such a value to everybody getting together. So when that becomes possible again, that's obviously very, very important, just for networking and also, of course, seeing the furniture and sitting on it. So the virtual tours have been a huge help for us, but we certainly don't see it replacing market. You really need both at this point.
Cool. Talking about Las Vegas again, you said you had several, I think a dozen confirmed appointments.
Mm-hmm.
Where are those Where are those people coming from? Are they mostly drive-in, or are these people coming from elsewhere in the country? And
All over. We've got some from the East Coast,
okay,
certainly the West Coast and the Midwest.
okay,
So all over the place. We don't have any from Mexico yet, and none from Canada, of course.
yeah.
But yeah, so all over.
Do you think some of the drive-in business that's going to be there? Do you anticipate any of those types of retailers being the types of people you'd want to do some business with, and if you hadn't seen it before? Or what's your take on that?
Well, we are container only. That kind
Right.
of limits, for a smaller, for like a designer account. We have a lot of interior designers that come in the showroom during market.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously we're not structured to do business with them, one at a time out of a warehouse.
Yeah. Again, talking about the buyers that you'll be seeing, are they brick and mortar, pure, e-commerce? What's the general profile?
Yep, both.
Okay.
We're not very active in pure play e-commerce.
Mm-hmm.
Typically what we do, we try to support our dealers that have omni-channel by
Mm-hmm.
giving them product and the digital tools that they need.
Okay.
The one thing we do offer really good mixability on our full containers. So we actually have quite a few single store accounts that we sell and that are very successful with Kuka because they can mix, stationery, they can mix sofas, accent chairs, dining chairs all in one can. So that does make it a little bit easier to flow containers from us. You can mix up to 8 different models.
Well, that might make y'all a little bit more accessible to some of these smaller retailers and some of the other big players like that.
Yeah.
And again, we're talking a little bit about looking ahead. What do you hope to learn with your experience in Las Vegas as it relates to how you're going to be doing physical trade shows moving forward? This isn't a test run. This is live action on doing a trade show this way.
Well,
can you talk about that?
Yeah, fortunately, we learned already at the June mini market and how it works. And, it works very well. The private appointments, I wasn't so sure how that would work out. It worked out very well. And then one dealer at a time in the showroom is certainly different than having everybody there at once. So it's a slower pace. You get to spend more time with your customers. And we certainly expect to see that again in Vegas. Much, much slower pace, more time to spend, have more meaningful conversations. So and we talk about future projects maybe that we might be doing for that retailer. And we expect to see pretty much the same thing there.
Yeah, well, there's not really an upside to this situation overall, but there are some ways to do business and adjust the way you do business to succeed. And they're looking for the benefits where you can do that. We talked a little bit about you do have some new product, not as much as usual. Can you talk quickly about how the supply chain is shaping up, holding up after we had we had a lot of shutdowns, not only here but also in Asia. How are things looking as far as flowing goods these days?
It's a challenge right now. I mean, it's been a challenge since February. When the pandemic hit in China first, obviously it was a supply chain issue. The factories were delayed in returning from Chinese New Year. So then it was a supply issue. And then very quickly it turned into all the US retailers shutting down. And then we took a ton of cancellations and lots of delays. And kind of our hopes during that time was, geez, when things reopen again, that there will be increased demand for furnishings. People have nothing else or very little else to spend money on. There's no more entertainment, theme parks, movie theaters. A lot of the restaurants are closed. And so people are spending a lot more time at home and they're doing home improvements and they're buying furniture. It's exactly what happened. So we've never seen anything like this. Our order rate is running 2.5 to 3 times the normal rate. And we will do in 5 days what we normally do in a really good month. So obviously that's placed a huge burden on the production capacity.
Well, yeah, I was going to say I can verify what you were saying just then. If I go downstairs to our living room, I see 3 new pieces that are in there now. And my wife is a teacher, so she's been out since the first week in March, and just went back for her first day today. Wishing her luck. But yeah, there are, we haven't been able to spend a whole lot of money on much of anything. So I think the dollars are there. We're back to supply chain. I'm hearing from a number of resources that the jury's still out on how this rebound is going to play out. Obviously, there's a huge amount of demand there, but I'm hearing that people are betting on, they're betting on the side of loading up their warehouses, getting cans on the water ahead of time, in anticipation of continued strong business in the fourth quarter. Where are y'all on that right now?
Yeah, I would agree with that, Powell. I think part of what we're seeing is just the really heavy demand at retail, but I think there's also a fair amount of people just loading up and trying to get out ahead of the production, getting filled up. So we're seeing both of that. From my take is the pandemic is going to be with us for a while. Hopefully they'll get a vaccine as quickly as possible and that's effective. But even once that's under control, I think people are going to be staying home a lot more than in the past. I don't think people will be traveling quite as much. And I think that does bode well for the furniture industry. So I think demand will remain strong, not like it is now. Certainly that's not sustainable, but I do think demand will remain strong through 2021.
So I hope so. Steve, are there any other thoughts you'd like to share on Vegas and business moving forward out of the market?
Yeah, it's we personally like the Vegas market. It's always been a good one for us, and most of our majors come to that market, both in the winter and the summer market. So it's always been a very important market for us. Mm-hmm. And again, as I mentioned before, if we have one customer that's coming, we're going to be there, and it'll be a smaller crew, much smaller than we normally have. None of our team members from China will be there, obviously. We're not even requiring the reps to come if they don't have a customer coming. There's no sense having them spend the money to come. But we will be there. The showroom is completely set up, ready to go. We have one more container that's due to show up. But it's completely filled up. It looks great, fully accessorized. And so we're there to welcome any dealers that happen to come in.
Well, that's fantastic. And I think to your point of, there's not as many people on Kuka's end out there. Got to feel that's a little reassuring for retailers when they're showing up at the showroom. It's them and you, and not a bunch of people running around.
Our market normally can be very frantic, as you know, and you have 5 or 6 big customers all show up at once. That happens all the time. Mm-hmm. So it is a much more relaxed pace. So you can, it's just much easier, honestly. And so I think it'll be pretty effective. So I think for whatever it is, whether it's just the 12 that we have confirmed or we end up with 20 or 40 dealers, whatever it is, we will have substantial time to spend with each one of them. And I think that's good, as we get to know each other's businesses better and better. That's always a good thing.
Right. Well, I'll look forward to catching up with you and seeing how this all plays out. And Steve, again, thank you for joining us. Folks, you've been listening to Steve Lush of Kuka Home North America. I'm Powell Slaughter with Furniture Today. Thanks for joining PBM News Desk.